They brought a predator to class. Then the human Deathworlder left aliens speechless. Samantha Green stared out the viewport as the transport ship approached Centauri Prime. The blue-green planet grew larger by the second, its 3 moons creating a beautiful backdrop against the darkness of space. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. In just a few hours, she would become the first human to attend the Advanced Xenobiology Institute, the most prestigious interspecies academy in the Galactic Federation. Approaching docking sequence, announced the automated system. All passengers, prepare for arrival procedures. Samantha checked her environmental readout on her wrist device. The data showed that Centauri Prime had slightly lower gravity than Earth, about 0.8 g, and an atmosphere rich in oxygen but with trace elements her body wasn't used to. Nothing dangerous, but she might experience mild dizziness for the first few days. As the only human on board, Samantha had grown used to the stairs. Most of the alien passengers kept their distance. Earth was classified as a death world in galactic terms, a harsh planet that produced only the most resilient and dangerous life forms. To them, she was basically a walking predator. The ship docked with a gentle bump. Samantha gathered her few belongings and joined the line of passengers heading for the exit. A tall, insect-like official checked her documentation at the gate. First human at the institute, the official chittered, compound eyes reflecting Samantha's face multiple times. You have been assigned special quarters. Follow the yellow path. Samantha nodded and stepped onto the glowing yellow trail that appeared on the floor. As she walked through the spaceport, she noticed how different everything was. The doorways varied in size and shape to accommodate different species. The lighting changed in different sections to suit various visual sensitivities. Signs appeared in at least 20 different languages, with Galactic Standard at the top. The yellow path led her to a small transport pod. Once inside, the door sealed silently, and the pod moved into a transparent tube, shooting across the landscape toward a cluster of elegant buildings in the distance. Samantha pressed her face against the glass, taking in her first real view of an alien world. The vegetation was mostly blue and purple instead of green. Strange creatures soared through the sky on membrane-like wings. When the pod finally stopped, Samantha found herself in front of a sleek building made of some pearly material that seemed to shimmer as she moved. The doors slid open automatically. "Welcome, Terran student," said a voice that seemed to come from nowhere. "I am Vega, the Institute's guidance system. Your quarters are in Building E, Room 17. Your roommate has been selected based on compatibility factors and has been briefed on human requirements." "Thank you," Samantha said, unsure where to look when talking to the disembodied voice. She followed the new path that appeared on the floor, leading her through a series of gardens filled with plants from different worlds. Few students were around, but those she passed gave her a wide berth. One group of small, purple-skinned beings actually turned and went in the opposite direction when they saw her coming. Building E turned out to be a dome-shaped structure with windows that adjusted their transparency based on the time of day. Room 17 was on the second level. As the door recognized her approach and slid open, Samantha took a steadying breath. The room was divided into 2 distinct areas. One side looked fairly standard with a bed, desk, and storage units. The other side contained what looked like a shallow pool filled with glowing blue liquid. A figure rose from the pool. At first glance, she looked almost human. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. But her skin was a pale blue and seemed to shimmer with tiny points of light, like stars embedded in her flesh. Her hair floated around her head as if she were underwater, despite being in the air. "Hello," the alien said in perfect galactic standard. "I am Alara from Nereus, therefore. You must be the human." "Samantha," she corrected gently. "Samantha Green. It's nice to meet you, Alara." Alara kept her distance, hovering near her pool. "I have researched your species. You come from a high-gravity world with extreme temperature variations and dangerous wildlife. Earth has its challenges," Samantha admitted, setting down her bag on the bed. "But it's home." "Is it true that humans are pursuit predators?" Alara asked, her voice a mix of fear and curiosity. Samantha sighed. She had expected this. "Our distant ancestors were. Modern humans don't need to hunt that way anymore. We've developed agriculture and technology. I've never hunted anything in my life. Ilara's skin flickered with light patterns that Samantha couldn't interpret. Yet you still have the physical adaptations. You can sweat to regulate temperature during extended physical activity. You have forward-facing eyes for depth perception when targeting prey. You have those teeth. Samantha closed her mouth self-consciously, aware of her canines. Yes, but... A chime interrupted them. The wall screen activated, showing a tall, avian being with iridescent feathers and 4 eyes. Attention all first-cycle students. I am Professor Zixtal, Dean of Xenobiological Studies. Orientation begins in 1 hour in the central amphitheater. Attendance is mandatory. The screen went dark. We should go, Ilara said, her skin shifting to a deeper blue. Professor Zixtal does not tolerate tardiness. Samantha nodded, quickly changing into the institute uniform that had been provided for her, a simple gray tunic and pants that adjusted to fit her human proportions. As they walked to the amphitheater, Samantha noticed how Ilara maintained a precise distance from her. Not close enough to be within grabbing range, she realized. The thought made her sad. The central amphitheater was an enormous space with seating arranged in concentric circles, each row designed to accommodate different physiologies. Samantha and Ilara found seats in a section designated for humanoid body types. Around them, hundreds of alien students of all shapes, sizes, and colors filled the space with a cacophony of sounds, smells, and movements. Professor Zixtal stepped onto the central platform. Up close, he was even more impressive, nearly 3 meters tall with 6 limbs, the upper 4 functioning as arms and the lower 2 as legs. His feathers shifted colors as he moved, creating hypnotic patterns. Welcome to the Advanced Xenobiology Institute, his voice boomed without need of amplification. You represent the finest young minds from 173 worlds. Here, you will learn to understand life in all its galactic diversity. His 4 eyes scanned the crowd, pausing when they found Samantha. This cycle, we welcome our first Terran student. Earth is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, making this an historic opportunity for cross-species education. Suddenly, every eye in the amphitheater turned toward Samantha. She sat perfectly still, feeling her cheeks grow hot with embarrassment. Remember, Professor Zixtal continued, the purpose of this institute is to move beyond biological determinism. We are not merely what our evolutionary history says we should be. Even a species from a death world can aspire to civilization. The condescension in his voice was unmistakable. Samantha clenched her jaw but kept her expression neutral. This was going to be harder than she thought. They brought a predator to class. Then the human Deathworlder left aliens speechless. 2 months passed at the Advanced Xenobiology Institute. Samantha Green settled into a routine that kept her busy from dawn until dusk. She woke early, exercised, in her room to burn off excess energy, attended classes, studied in the library, and returned to her room. Most nights she ate alone. The cafeteria offered food tablets designed for humans, but they tasted like cardboard and left her craving real food from Earth. Her relationship with her roommate Ilara had improved slightly. The blue-skinned Nereid no longer flinched when Samantha moved too quickly, and they sometimes studied together in the evenings. Ilara was fascinated by Earth oceans, though horrified when Samantha explained about sharks, jellyfish, and other dangerous marine creatures. Your planet has predators even. In the water? Ilara had asked, her skin flashing pale patterns of distress. Pretty much everywhere, Samantha had replied honestly. But humans have learned to live with them. Today, Samantha hurried toward her Advanced Predator Studies class. Professor Zixtal taught this course himself, and he never missed a chance to use Earth as an example of evolutionary brutality. The classroom was arranged in a circle, with the teaching area in the center. Seats adjusted automatically to accommodate different body types. Samantha slipped into her usual spot near the back, hoping to avoid attention. Professor Zixtal swooped into the center of the room, his feathers displaying bright patterns of blue and gold today. His 4 eyes scanned the class, lingering briefly on Samantha. Today, he announced. We begin our special project on apex predator analysis. His primary wings spread wide with excitement. Each student will bring a controlled example of an apex predator from their homeworld for practical demonstration next week. We will analyze hunting behaviors, predatory adaptations, and threat assessment. Excited whispers filled the room. Most students at the Institute came from peaceful worlds with few dangerous species. Studying real predators up close would be a novelty. The specimens must be safely contained, Professor Zixtel continued. Size restrictions apply, nothing larger than a small transport case. Environmental needs must be met, and sedation protocols will be required. Samantha raised her hand, drawing immediate attention from the entire class. Yes, Terran student? Professor Zixtal's feathers flattened slightly. It's Samantha, she corrected calmly. I was wondering what Earth predator would be appropriate to bring. Our quarantine regulations are very strict. The professor's four eyes blinked in an alternating pattern that Samantha had learned indicated amusement or contempt. Often both. Nothing, Terran. Simply attend. You are, after all, already our predator specimen. Several students trilled with nervous laughter. Samantha felt heat rise to her face but kept her expression neutral. She had grown used to these small humiliations. After class, Vorn approached her. The silicon-based student from a crystalline world resembled a walking geode, with faceted surfaces that caught the light. Unlike most students, Vorn seemed interested in humans rather than afraid of them. That was uncomfortable, Vorn said, crystal surfaces vibrating to create speech. Zixtal should not single you out that way. I'm used to it, Samantha replied with a shrug. What will you do for the project? Samantha frowned. I'm not sure. I guess I'll just observe like he said. That seems unfair, Vorn commented. Everyone else gets to participate. That evening, Samantha sat on her bed, looking through her data pad at images of Earth animals. Professor Zixtal's words echoed in her mind. You are already our predator specimen. Is that all they saw when they looked at her? A dangerous creature from a death world? Ilara emerged from her pool, her skin glowing softly in the dim room. What are you looking at? She asked, drifting closer than she usually dared. Earth animals, for that predator project. But Zixtal said, I know what he said, Samantha interrupted. But I'm a student here, not an exhibit. Ilara's skin flickered with light patterns that Samantha now recognized as curiosity. What predator would you bring if you could? Maybe a cat, Samantha said, showing an image of a small house cat. They're domesticated predators that humans keep as companions. Ilara drifted backward. You keep predators as companions? Samantha laughed. They're small and mostly harmless, but they still have all their hunting instincts. See? She showed a video of a cat stalking and pouncing on a toy. Fascinating, Ilara admitted. On my world, we form symbiotic relationships with other species, but none that hunt. Are you sure about that? Samantha asked, an idea forming in her mind. No species on Nereus or 4 hunts others? We have filter feeders, photosynthesizers, and symbiotic consumers, Ilara explained. True predation is rare in our oceans. Samantha nodded thoughtfully. What about here on Centauri Prime? This isn't your homeworld either. I have not studied the local wildlife extensively, Ilara admitted. The next day, instead of going to the library after classes, Samantha visited the Institute's Centaurian Ecology Preserve. The small park contained local plants and small animals, allowing off-world students to study the native ecosystem safely. She walked slowly, observing everything with careful eyes. Most Centaurian creatures were peaceful plant eaters or nectar sippers, but as she sat quietly on a bench near a flowering bush, she noticed movement. A small, fluffy creature with large eyes and tiny paws emerged from the underbrush. It resembled a cross between a rabbit and a squirrel, with soft fur and oversized ears. The little animal moved carefully, sniffing the air. Then, with surprising speed, it pounced on a small flying insect, catching it between its front paws and quickly eating it. Samantha smiled. She watched for another hour as the creature caught and ate several more insects, displaying classic predatory behavior, stalking, pouncing, even lying in wait. Later, she visited the Institute's information center and discovered the animal was called a nilbin, a common pet among Centaurian families. Many students from Centauri Prime even brought them to the Institute as comfort animals. That evening, she approached Kodo, a Centaurian student who lived down the hall. "Kodo, does your nilbin ever catch bugs?" she asked casually. The amphibious Centaurian nodded his headstock. "Oh yes, Puffball loves to hunt ribbonflies. It's very amusing to watch. Why do you ask?" "Just curious," Samantha said. "Would you mind if I observed Puffball sometime? For a biology project?" "Not at all," Kodo replied. "Puffball enjoys attention." For the next 5 days, Samantha spent her free time recording Kodo's pet nilbin. She documented its hunting behaviors, measured its pounce distance, and cataloged the types of prey it preferred. She created a detailed behavioral analysis and compiled the data into her project. The day before the predator presentations, Professor Zixtal stopped her after class. "Taryn," he said, feathers bristling slightly, "I notice you have reserved a presentation slot tomorrow. I was clear that you need not bring a specimen." "With respect, Professor," Samantha replied evenly, "I am a student in this class, not a research subject. I have prepared a project according to the assignment parameters." "Without an approved Earth predator? Impossible." "I never said my specimen was from Earth," Samantha replied with a small smile. "You'll have to attend tomorrow to see." As she walked away, she felt Professor Zixtal's 4 eyes boring into her back. For once, she looked forward to his class. They brought a predator to class. Then the human Deathworlder left aliens speechless. The day of the predator demonstrations arrived. The lecture hall had been transformed into a secure presentation area with transparent energy barriers separating the demonstration table from the audience. Students filled the seats, buzzing with excitement. Everyone wanted to see exotic predators from across the galaxy. Professor Zixtal stood at the center of the room, his feathers displaying proud patterns of gold and blue. "Today we observe, analyze, and classify predatory behaviors across diverse, evolutionary lines," he announced. "Remember your safety protocols. While all specimens have been approved and secured, we treat every predator with appropriate caution." His 4 eyes scanned the room, landing on Samantha at the back. "We will proceed in alphabetical order by planet of origin." That meant Samantha would present near the end, as Earth, or Terra, as the galactic community called it, was listed under T. The first student from Altair 6 presented a plant-like organism that trapped small flying creatures in sticky tendrils. Next came a student from Beluga Prime with a small aquatic creature that hunted by sound. One by one, students brought forward their contained specimens. Most of the predators seemed harmless to Samantha's eyes. Few had teeth or claws. Many trapped food rather than actively pursuing it. The class took notes and asked questions about hunting efficiency, sensory adaptations, and ecological niches. Ilara presented a luminous jellyfish-like creature from her homeworld that paralyzed microscopic prey with light pulses. The class watched in fascination as the tiny organism flashed patterns in its containment sphere, drawing in even smaller life forms. Vorn showed a crystalline entity that slowly dissolved mineral formations, absorbing their energy. "Not technically a predator in the biological sense," Vorn explained, "but it functions as an apex consumer in silicon-based ecosystems." As the presentations continued, Samantha noticed a pattern. The alien students viewed predators with a mix of scientific curiosity and instinctive fear. They kept their distance from the containment units, asking questions about aggression control and neutralization methods. Even with these tiny, mostly harmless creatures, the non-Deathworlders seemed uncomfortable with the concept of one organism hunting another. Finally, it was Earth's turn. "Terra," Professor Zixtal announced, his feathers flattening slightly. "Samantha Green." A hush fell over the room as Samantha walked to the front carrying a small sealed container. She could feel every eye watching her movements. Some students shifted away as she passed their seats. "Professor," Samantha said, placing her container on the demonstration table. "With your permission, I'd like to present my specimen." Professor. Zixtal's head feathers rose in surprise. You have somehow acquired an Earth predator despite quarantine regulations? No, Professor, Samantha replied calmly. My specimen is not from Earth. Whispers swept through the classroom. Samantha opened her container carefully, revealing a small, fluffy creature with large eyes and tiny paws. A nilbin, just like Kodo's pet, though this one was a paler color. This is Whiskers, Samantha explained. A common Centaurian nilbin. I've been observing him for the past week with permission from his owner. The Centaurian students in the class looked confused. One called out, "That's not a predator, that's a pet." Is it not both? Samantha asked, activating her datapad. The large screen behind her lit up with footage she had recorded. The seemingly innocent nilbin was shown stalking and pouncing on small insects in a garden setting, using remarkable speed and precision. During my observations, Whiskers displayed 17 distinct hunting behaviors, Samantha continued, including stalking, ambush, predation, and killing bites. He can track prey by scent and movement, and his pounce accuracy is 93%. Professor Zixtal's feathers bristled. This is merely play behavior. Nilbins are gentle companion animals. With respect, Professor, the insects being caught and eaten might disagree, Samantha replied, keeping her tone even. I measured Whiskers' food intake. He consumes approximately 30% of his diet through hunting, despite being regularly fed by his owner. She advanced her presentation to show close-up footage of the nilbin's teeth, small but sharp, designed for piercing insect shells. Note the canine and incisor structure, Samantha pointed out. Classic predator dentition, evolved for puncturing and tearing. The nilbin's ancestors were not plant eaters. The Centaurian students looked at each other in confusion. Many had nilbins as pets but had never thought of them as predators. The point I'm making, Samantha explained, isn't that nilbins are dangerous. They're not. They're small, mostly harmless creatures that hunt even smaller prey. My point is that you've been living alongside predators your entire lives without fear. You've even welcomed them into your homes. She switched her presentation to show evolutionary data. Many Centaurian species have predatory origins, but your society has chosen to emphasize only their gentler aspects. You've convinced yourselves that predation is something alien and frightening, rather than a natural part of life's development. Professor Zixtal's feathers were now fully erect in agitation. This is not the assignment, Taryn. My name is Samantha, she replied firmly, and actually, this is exactly the assignment. You asked us to bring a predator and analyze its adaptations and behaviors. I'm also analyzing your adaptations and behaviors, specifically, your cultural adaptation to deny the predatory aspects of your own world. The room fell silent. Some students looked thoughtful, others uncomfortable. You've labeled humans as dangerous predators, Samantha continued. And yes, our evolutionary history includes predation. We did evolve as pursuit, predators with endurance hunting. But just like the nilbin, we're not defined solely by that aspect of our biology. She gestured to the small, fluffy creature, now contentedly grooming itself in its container. Whiskers here isn't just a predator. He's also a companion, a playmate, a source of comfort. Nothing in the universe can be reduced to a single characteristic. Samantha advanced her presentation to show comparison data. I've analyzed the predatory behaviors of nilbins against Earth house cats. The similarities are striking. Both are small predators that humans and Centaurians have welcomed into their homes. Both retain hunting instincts while forming bonds with other species. Professor Zixtal seemed at a loss for words. His feathers shifted through several patterns rapidly. Are humans predators? Technically, yes, Samantha concluded. But we're also builders, healers, artists, and explorers. We protect our young and care for our elderly. We've created societies based on cooperation, not just competition, just as you've done. She closed her presentation and stepped back. Thank you for your attention. The silence in the room felt different now. Students were looking at Samantha with new expressions, not fear, but curiosity. Even Professor Zixtal seemed to be considering her words, his feathers slowly settling into a neutral pattern. An interesting perspective, he finally said. Though highly unconventional, we will discuss the scientific merits of your analysis further. As Samantha returned to her seat, several students nodded to her. Vorn's crystal surfaces glowed with approval, and for the first time since arriving at the institute, Samantha felt like a student rather than a specimen. They brought a predator to class, then the human Deathworlder left aliens speechless in. The days following Samantha's presentation, things changed at the Advanced Xenobiology Institute. Students who had previously avoided her began asking questions about Earth and human culture. Some even sat near her in the cafeteria, watching with curious eyes as she ate her food tablets. "Is it true that humans can run for hours without stopping?" asked a moth-like student named Leary, her antenna twitching with interest. "Some humans can," Samantha explained, pleased to have a real conversation. "Our bodies evolved to cool efficiently through sweating, which lets us maintain activity longer than many species." "Fascinating," Leary said. "On my world, we conserve energy. Extended physical activity would be considered wasteful." Even Professor Zixtal's attitude had shifted slightly. In the next Advanced Predator Studies class, he acknowledged Samantha by name rather than calling her Terran. It was a small change, but it felt like progress. Samantha's roommate Alara showed the biggest transformation. One evening, as Samantha studied at her desk, Ilara floated closer than ever before. "I have a confession," Ilara said, her skin rippling with blue-green patterns of embarrassment. "I have been keeping a journal about human behaviors. I hope you don't mind." Samantha looked up in surprise. "You've been studying me?" "Yes," Ilara admitted. "At first it was to understand potential threats, but after watching you for 2 months I realized something important. You show remarkable restraint and adaptability." "What do you mean?" "You adjust your movements constantly," Ilara explained. "You step carefully to avoid startling smaller species. You speak more softly than your vocal structure requires. You minimize your physical presence in shared spaces." Samantha had never thought about these behaviors consciously. She had simply tried to fit in. "On my world," Ilara continued, "adaptation is slow, happening over generations through symbiotic relationships. But you adapt daily, hourly, minute by minute. It's an impressive skill." "Thanks," Samantha said, touched by the observation. "Humans have always had to adapt to survive. Our planet has many different environments, and they can change quickly." "Would you?" Ilara hesitated, her skin flashing with nervous light patterns. "Would you tell me more about Earth? The real Earth? Not just the Death World description in the Institute database?" Samantha smiled. "I'd love to." That night, Samantha shared stories about Earth's oceans and mountains, its cities and forests. She showed Ilara pictures of human families, celebrations, and everyday life. Ilara listened with growing interest, asking thoughtful questions about how humans lived with Earth's dangers. "So you've created safe spaces within a dangerous world," Ilara said, processing this new understanding. "Yes, but we also work to coexist with other species," Samantha explained. "We set aside protected areas for wildlife. We study and appreciate the predators we once feared." The next morning, a message appeared on Samantha's datapad. It was from Professor Zixtal, requesting a meeting in his office after classes. Samantha felt a flutter of anxiety but tried to stay positive. Perhaps this was another small step toward acceptance. Professor Zixtal's office reflected his avian nature. It was large and open, with elevated perches instead of chairs. For Samantha, there was a small bench near the door. The walls displayed holographic images of various species rotating slowly to show different anatomical features. "Samantha Green," Professor Zixtal said as she entered, his feathers arranged in a formal pattern. "Thank you for coming." "Thank you for inviting me, Professor," Samantha replied politely, taking her seat. "Your presentation on the Nilbin as a predator has caused quite a stir among the faculty," he began, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. Some have criticized your methodology. Others found your comparison between Centaurian pets and humans to be provocative. Samantha kept her expression neutral, waiting. I have reviewed your data carefully, Professor Zixtal continued. Your observations are accurate. The Nilbin does indeed display predatory behaviors, though on a small scale. His feathers shifted to a pattern Samantha hadn't seen before. What interests me more is what you did not include in your presentation, he said. I'm not sure I understand, Samantha replied. You had an opportunity to emphasize human superiority as predators, to highlight the differences between Earth's dangerous species and our gentle companions. Instead, you focused on similarities, on common ground. The professor's head tilted slightly. Why? Samantha considered her answer carefully. Because finding common ground is more useful than highlighting differences. Humans learned that on Earth with each other, long before we met other species among the stars. Professor Zixtal was silent for a moment, his feathers rippling thoughtfully. The Academic Council has been monitoring what they call the human experiment. Your presence here at the Institute, he finally said. They expected you to struggle with adapting to non-Earth species. Some predicted aggressive incidents or inability to function in our environment. Samantha felt a flare of anger but kept it hidden. So I was an experiment, not a student? Initially, yes, Professor Zixtal admitted, but experiments sometimes yield unexpected results. You have not only adapted but have challenged our preconceptions through observation and analysis, the very skills we value most at this institute. He moved to a holographic display and activated a new image, a map of the Galactic Federation with Earth highlighted. The Council is now discussing an expanded exchange program, not just one human but many, and not just at this institute, but across our learning centers. His feathers displayed a pattern that Samantha now recognized as indicating excitement. And in return we would send our students to Earth. To a death world? Samantha asked with a small smile. Perhaps we need to reconsider that classification, Professor Zixtal replied. Your presentation suggested that predatory aspects exist across many worlds including our own. The difference may be one of degree rather than kind. He closed the holographic display. I have nominated you to help develop the new exchange program parameters. Your insights on human-alien interactions would be valuable. Samantha couldn't hide her surprise. I'd be honored, Professor, thank you. Do not thank me yet, he said, his feathers flattening slightly in amusement. Convincing the Council to send students to Earth will require substantial evidence that they will be safe there. You have much work ahead. As Samantha left the office, her mind raced with possibilities. The chance to bring more humans to the Institute and to send alien students to experience Earth firsthand could change everything. Real understanding could only come from direct experience, not just database entries about death worlds and predatory species. Her datapad chimed with a new message. It was from Vorn, inviting her to join a study group that evening. At the USI, bottom was a note. Several students have questions about Earth. Would you be willing to share your experiences? Samantha smiled as she sent her reply. Absolutely. I'll bring pictures. For the first time since arriving on Centauri Prime, Samantha felt like she was making a difference, not just as a curiosity from a death world, but as a bridge between different evolutionary paths. The journey ahead would be challenging, but she was ready. They brought a predator to class, then the human Deathworlder left aliens speechless. The final weeks of the semester flew by for Samantha. Her days became busier than ever as she balanced her regular classes with her new role helping to develop the expanded exchange program. She worked closely with Professor Zixtal and a committee of faculty members to create safety protocols, cultural orientation materials, and academic frameworks for future students. Earth's higher gravity will be challenging for many species, Samantha explained during one planning session. We'll need to create special living spaces with gravity controls. And what about Earth predators? Asked Professor Lanix, a plant-based faculty member whose leaves rustled nervously at the thought. All exchange students would stay in protected zones initially, Samantha assured him. just as I did when I first arrived here. Safety is our top priority. The study group that began with Vorn's invitation had grown into a regular gathering. Students from a dozen different worlds now met twice a week to learn about Earth and share information about their own planets. Samantha had become something of an unofficial ambassador for humanity. "Do humans really sleep for 8 hours every day?" asked Zith, a nocturnal species with large eyes. "What a waste of consciousness." "We need the rest," Samantha explained, with a laugh. "Our brains use sleep to process information and repair our bodies." "And humans really grow new outer layers of skin cells continuously?" asked another student, fascinated by human biology. These conversations helped Samantha as much as they helped the other students. By explaining Earth and human customs, she gained new perspectives on her own species. Things she had taken for granted, like the change of seasons, the diversity of Earth's climates, even the simple act of swimming in an ocean, became fresh and interesting when seen through alien eyes. Her relationship with Alara had transformed completely. They now spent evenings talking freely about their respective worlds. Alara no longer kept her distance, and sometimes they would work together at the same desk, shoulder to shoulder. "On my world, we have a saying," Alara told her one night as they prepared for final exams. "To understand the current, you must swim in many waters. I think I understand what it means now." "We have similar sayings on Earth," Samantha replied, "about walking in someone else's shoes to understand their perspective." "But you don't have feet like shoes," Alara said, confused. Samantha laughed. "It's a metaphor. Not all humans have the same type of feet or shoes." "Earth metaphors are strange," Alara said, her skin flickering with amusement. "But I think I'm starting to understand them." The day before the end of the semester, Samantha received a message from the Academic Council, requesting her presence at a special meeting. She dressed in her formal institute uniform and made her way to the council chambers, a grand room with a circular table in the center and seats arranged for various physiologies. Director Goal, a tall amphibious being with shimmering scales, greeted her at the entrance. "Samantha Green, thank you for joining us today." "Thank you for the invitation, Director," Samantha replied, trying to hide her nervousness. Inside the chamber, representatives from various academic departments sat around the table. Professor Zixtal was there, his feathers arranged in a formal pattern. He nodded slightly as Samantha entered. "Please take a seat," Director Goal said, gesturing to an empty place at the table. Samantha sat down, aware that this was a significant honor. Students rarely attended council meetings, let alone participated as equals. "We have been reviewing the proposed exchange program," Director Goal began. "Professor Zixtal has shared your contributions to the planning process. The council is impressed with the thoughtfulness and detail of the safety protocols." "Thank you," Samantha said. "Safety for all species involved is essential." "Indeed," agreed another council member, a being composed of interconnected luminous orbs. "But safety is not our only concern. Cultural exchange must be meaningful to be valuable." Director Goal activated a holographic display showing Earth and Centauri Prime side by side. "Our initial assessment classified Earth as a death world unfit for most galactic species. That classification is now under review." Professor Zixtal spoke up. "Samantha's presentation on predatory behaviors across different worlds has prompted us to reconsider our framework. Perhaps it is not the presence of predators that defines a world, but how species learn to coexist." "Exactly," Samantha said, encouraged by the professor's support. "Humans have created safe and peaceful societies on a planet with challenging conditions. We've learned to adapt and protect ourselves while respecting other species." "Which brings us to the reason for this meeting," Director Goal said. "The Council has approved the expanded exchange program. 10 students from the Institute will visit Earth next semester, and 10 more humans will join our student body here." Samantha's heart leaped with excitement. "That's wonderful news." "There is more," Director Goal continued. "We would like you to serve as the official Earth liaison for the program. You would help select the Centaurian students who will visit Earth Prepare them for the journey and continue your work here with the new human arrivals. Samantha hadn't expected this. I'd be honored, she said. But I was planning to return to Earth at the end of the semester. We understand, Professor Zixtal said, but your unique experience makes you ideal for this role. You have successfully bridged our worlds. Samantha thought about it. Staying meant delaying her return home, but it also meant continuing the important work she had started. I accept, she said finally. Thank you for this opportunity. As the meeting concluded, Professor Zixtal approached her. His feathers displayed a pattern she now recognized as respect. When you first arrived, he said, I saw only a Deathworlder in my classroom. I failed to see the student, the bridge builder. We all have preconceptions, Samantha replied. What matters is our willingness to reconsider them. The professor's feathers shifted in agreement. You have taught us as much as we have taught you, perhaps more. In the final days of the semester, Samantha helped interview Centaurian students, eager to visit Earth. Their questions reflected both excitement and anxiety. Will I see real mountains? Asked one student. Are Earth oceans really full of creatures with teeth? Asked another. Samantha answered each question honestly but reassuringly. Yes, Earth had dangers, but it also had beauty, diversity, and humans who would welcome them with open arms. On the last night of the semester, Ilara and Samantha sat together in their room, watching the 3 moons of Centauri Prime through the window. Will you miss home during your extended stay? Ilara asked. Yes, Samantha admitted, but I'll return eventually with stories about all of you, and soon you'll have more humans to study. I think I'll miss having you as my only human, Ilara said, her skin glowing with warm, friendly patterns. You've been a good teacher. And you've been a good friend, Samantha replied. The first of many, I hope, between our worlds. As they looked at the stars, Samantha thought about how far she had come since that first day when everyone saw her as just a predator from a death world. Now she was a bridge between species, helping others see beyond biological origins to the complex, adaptable beings underneath. They had brought a predator to class, but what they found was something much more valuable. A teacher, a student, and a friend from a world that suddenly seemed much less alien than before.